Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Monday morning, guys. Up and at 'em for you guys that are working that Monday through Friday, right? So, what are we going to talk about today on today's episode? I thought I'd first bring up to date. Jason, you had asked about who's taking care of the girls. And I'll tell you, without plotting, everything would have come to a stop. My daughter was my right hand man when it comes to my health care and all that. But I had to rely on Claude for pretty much everything else. That was taking care of the girls. And even right up till last night, he's still doing it because I can't get on a tractor yet. And they don't want me lifting anything. So, and all he will say is, I know you do the same for me. And that's the way the North Country is. I mean, I would do anything for anybody in need in a heartbeat. No questions asked. If you need the help, ask. If you're too, what's the right word, to ask, most of us know when you need help. And we will show up. And we will help you. That's just the way we roll, right? So, Claude's been very, very valuable for all of it. He's the older brother, best friend, and coworker. And couldn't ask for a better guy. Except for his swearing like a drunken sailor. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? I thought we'd kind of go into, some tips and tricks and maybe tools of the trade. It's not going to be a super long video, but I think sometimes we have to be reminded of what it was like when we first started out and some of the things that will help other people that are just getting into the business, whether it's a do-it-yourself or at home retiree, which we have a lot of you, or somebody looking to make a side hustle, make some money at it, doing other people's machines as well. There is some extra money to be had there, and you don't have to deal with people other than your customers, but you're not in a crowded area. You can have your own little workshop in your garage or in an outbuilding where you can store gas and all that and make a few bucks. But this is also for the guy or gal that wants to go full time and make this their living. Is there room in here yet to do it? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's room for anybody to get in right now. Learn the trade and be able to run a shop full time with equipment coming in. Battery is coming, but they're not that far. They're not that advanced. And there's still a lot of stuff to work on. And you're going to transition like we always have, that you're going to transition to part of your work is going to be working on electric stuff, whether it's replacing blades, changing the oil in the lower units, hydrostats. So, all right, stay tuned and we'll get started this morning on that. Alrighty, so welcome back. Yes, my name is Eric, if you didn't already know it, and this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Monday, December 9th. If you haven't got your Christmas stuff together, this would probably be a good time because, the sales have been there before Thanksgiving. But there's a lot of good deals to be had on eBay and Amazon, and again, support your local stores and businesses, and that includes your local repair shop. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about some tips and tricks and some stories, let's say, on running a business, whether you're doing it just for your own stuff or making a little bit of money on the side or looking at full-time or doing it full-time. One of the things I can remember first coming out of the gate when I first got into this field was I'd start trying things, spraying carburetor into the throat of the carburetor cleaner, and seeing if it would fire up, and doing a lot of other stuff. And the biggest thing that it kept coming back to that I should have started at was compression. And that's why I stress so much in my videos that you need to have a compression tester and test those units first. It's going to save you a lot of time. I think that was my biggest time waster when in the first couple of years, is I spent more time trying to diagnose the unit incorrectly. I was looking to see, well, will it fire up on carb cleaner? Well, something with low compression will fire up on carb cleaner. But if you don't spray it like you would a diesel with ether, it's not going to start, right? So had you approached it first and threw that compression tester on it, and let's say, you're getting a reading of 50, 60 on that compression tester, it probably is a good indicator that either your valves, your push rods, something may be out of whack in there, or you got an engine that's just tired. And then you have to decide, is it worth rebuilding? If it's in the valves and stuff like that, yes, of course, it's worth taking your time to replace the push rod. I kind of want to know why that push rod, because I've seen it before, on a backfire, bend a aluminum push rod. So, it does happen. But if I see a bent push rod, then I start looking to see, is it at a time? Did the flywheel turn just enough on that keyway? So I popped the flywheel off, and I also replaced the keyway before I put the flywheel back down. That's just something that I've learned over the years, right? And that holds true for you, is that when you look at a machine, you're looking at what is it going to take to get you running, right? And a lot of us pull from experience. I talked about how you get time. The more time you do it, the more experiences you have. And those experiences are good and bad. but we're going to use both sides for positive, which means even with the bad, we know how not to do it, right? So all the good experiences are there, and then you have the bad that you're going to change into a positive of finding, okay, this didn't work. Now, here's the cleaner. It may work on the next engine and not on that engine. So each engine is unique in its own way, but there's a lot of similarities. So we always want to start with compression just to give us a baseline of where we're at and where to start. Because if you don't have enough compression, and I'll be honest with you, I like to see 90 to 120 and up on a lot of your, lawnmowers, generators, and all that. With the Predators, the Harbor Freights, and those engines, they seem to run fine at 40, 50. And you can't adjust them like you would in a regular set of valves. I've got a video that we did on just adjusting the valves on one of these. You got to have two guys, one with a compression tester and the other just tighten a little bit, loosen a little bit until we get the best pressure we can get on both the intake and the exhaust. So if we approach every engine and do a compression check, we've ruled out or ruled in what our next step is, right? And if you have overhead valves, you go to the valves and you check the valves and you make sure that you have them set to where they need to be and that everything is working in there. There's no bent push rod or push rod is totally off. So the next thing is going to be fuel, right? Well, spark rather. Sorry, I'm still a little bit slow on the old noggin up here. So the second thing is going to be spark. If you got compression, you know that if you can get the other into that chamber, you're going to get fire and that engine is going to run. So we want to check and find out, is the engine getting spark? And you can buy, we take a step back, you can buy a compression tester for under $20. And spark testers are around $5 a piece. And I grab a couple of them because a lot of times we're working on twins, right? But you want to see if there's spark coming through those from the coil. And if not, if you're not getting fire from the coil, with time you're going to learn this again with experience, gets you wisdom, is a lot of times this has nothing to do with the coil. I've seen people just start parts replacing. And that can get pretty expensive, right? What we want to know at that point is, okay, if the coils are firing, that's great. And if we got good compression, that's great. If the coil are not sending a spark to the plug, it's not necessarily the coil. And you're going to say, well, what do you mean? Well, in order for that coil to fire, all your safety switches have to be in the right position to bypass to the key to allow it to start. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is that if you have a bad safety switch on your PTO, or you left your PTO engaged the last time you used it and shut it off, you're not going to be able to get it to throw a spark. So the way we test that is simply by there's a small ground wire on both coils, okay? And we take those two off, and then we turn the engine over. If that engine is getting fire and it starts, that's telling me that I have to henpeck my way back through the whip, okay? Plug the coils back in, and then just start going to all the safety switches that are on it. There's probably one on the brake. There's probably one on the PTO. Probably one that you have to have in park. But check around to all those systems on your unit, whether they're working or not. And if they're not working, correct the problem. If it's a bad switch, key switch, PTO switch, if it's electric PTO, those are the things that you're going to want to check, right? So now if we have fuel, or we have compression, and we have spark, we want to go to fuel. And if you watch very many of my videos, you'll know that we dump the fuel. I don't trust the customer, on what they have that's in that unit. And if it's been sitting for a long period of time without any type of stabilizer like PRI-G that we use now, that Jason brought to our attention. See, when you hear me say this channel is about you and that I get as much as I give, you guys help me immensely as well. And even with this heart surgery, being like cheerleaders, I appreciate every one of you, you more than what you'll ever know. But let's get back onto the small engine. So we need fresh fuel. And I buy the 91 octane, okay, for the shop. And then we add the PRI to the 5-gallon container before we add the gas. So it's treated, okay? And that works well when you're doing storage and everything else. But so we want to have fresh fuel in that system to try it, because it doesn't take just a little bit of water on the bottom, and that's where it normally is being sucked from, right? It doesn't take just a little bit of water in that to get into the carburetor, and I have yet to see an engine that will fire on water. It will not. It will foul your plugs and just cause a lot of headaches. We've tried different things over the years, one being the sniff test, to see if it smells varnishy or whether it smells fresh. And we've had stuff that smelled fresh but still had water in it. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a glass jar and I'll have Claude put it right into this jar, and then I can show the customer, look, here's your water, your ethanol, and then your fuel. And you're pulling from the bottom, so you're going to get water first, then ethanol, and then your fuel, right? So we want good quality fuel. So if I were running a repair shop, which I am, we put fresh, I don't care if it's full. We put fresh fuel in it. We drain out the old. And we use the old, once we've taken the water out of it, we use it in the older tractors and this and that. Here at the shop, where we use it to wash parts. So now we know, start with compression, go to fire on your coils. Make sure you have fresh fuel that you're working with. Because, like I say, it'll cause you a lot of heartache in the end if there's a little bit of water in there. So it's better to drain it and put in some that fresh that you know is good, all right? A lot of times you're going to have to drain that carburetor because by then you've got water, moisture, everything else is down there. Unless you're one of my customers, and that is, I teach and train all my customers, when you're done using it for a long period of time, turn your fuel off and let your unit run itself out. And what do I mean by that? I mean, just simply turn the fuel off. And when it quits, turn the key off. If it's a rider, generator, what have you, you know. And then when you get ready to use it again, all you have to do is turn the fuel on, wait a minute or two so the bowl fills up, and then hit your switch. What are we trying to accomplish with that? Training our customers to do that. And that is, we don't want anything settling into that bowl. We don't want the ethanol and the varnish and everything else. So the easiest way I can tell you is just shut the fuel off, let it run itself dry, and it should be in pretty decent shape when you get ready to use it again. Just reverse the order. Open the petcock, wait a minute or two, and then start it up and go. So the last thing that we need is air, right? Every engine needs good quality air to run. And if there's restriction on it, it's going to act like it's being choked, right? Because it's harder to suck through that filter. So checking the air filter and the air box to make sure everything is correct in there is one of the last things that we do, all right? And that is, if it needs to be blown out, blow it out. If it needs to be replaced, don't skimp. You got to have. I've seen them so bad that engine was just being flooded all the time, and they told me they couldn't get it to run right. Well, we had not seen this machine before, and it was probably 7 years old, and the guy never did any maintenance. He just topped it off with oil and ran it. Well, the air filter was totally packed shut. I mean, it couldn't have got any air if it wanted to. But that's going to take us into the next thing, is promoting to your customers why it's important to have regular maintenance on all their equipment. And I would be stressing, like the lawnmower, the generator, the rototiller, the walk behind, the push behind, you know, those things. Chainsaws, depends on how much you use it. A lot of homeowners use it for 1 or 2 jobs, and then it just sits up on the shelf. And if you're going to have it sit up on the shelf, you either want to take and dump the gas out, or treat all your gas is what I recommend, so that you're not getting the varnish and everything else into that carburetor. Because once you have varnish in there, the needle and seat will never work properly for you. But those other ones, you know, I stress to the customer, you know, it's better to get it in here and let us put our eyes on it and fix any issues so that you have a carefree summer, or as much of a carefree summer as possible. You know, we're not gods when it comes to repair shops. We can't figure all of it out. You know, there's times where it does come back, and it's a different issue. You know, and I talked about in all the other videos that if it comes back and it's something to do with what we did, then I'll eat it, you know, and I'll eat it because it's not the customer's fault, for one. And two, if you tried charging that customer, I think you'd find that they probably would pay it, but that'd be the last time you see them. If it's iffy, eat it, guys. All right, so that's going to push us in, the regular maintenance, and that is, getting your customers, whether they come in the spring or come in the fall, do the fall service, offer a little discount for the ones that want to do it in the fall, because that's your slow time, right? Usually it's like the end of September till we start getting a little bit of snow for the snow blowers. We're still seeing the chainsaws because people are getting their wood cut, splitting that stuff, and we're still seeing the wood splitters coming. Whether they got broken hydraulic lines, the Lovejoys have gone, or they just ran into an issue with them. But what I'm trying to get at is, so far, everything that we've really need for tools is a compression tester, 2 spark testers, so you can, on a twin, you can watch the two to see if they're both running just about the same brightness. So you're talking $30 for all that. Tools, I encourage people to pick up, and Harbor Freight is a great one to start out with. That's what I used to have on the farm. Get yourself a 1/4-inch set of SAE and metric, okay? And a lot of times you can get the 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 inch sold as a kit. And that's fine too. And they have the SAE and then they have the metric. I would recommend that you get both. In our line of work, most of the stuff is metric, all right? And then you're going to want a couple T-handled torque 27, 28. I'm trying to think which one, but I think it's 27. You're going to find that on a lot of the steel weed eaters and stuff like that, to get them apart, you're going to need that torque bit. And I've got the one for my impact driver where I can use that. But a lot of times I just use the T-handle because I don't want to strip the hole because of the speed of the gun. But again, you're still not talking big money. It's under $100 so far. If they don't give you the 1/4-inch in metric, then pick up a metric set that is just 1/4-inch. See, I have all the sockets up through for the 1/2 inch, 3/8. And I didn't get a lot with a 1/4-inch, to be honest with you. So I went out and I bought a 1/4-inch regular and metric. And they set right in with my 1/4-inch stuff. A lot of stuff that you're going to need may come in those kits now that Harbor Freight have got together. And then with your fuel, PRI-G, you can get that on Amazon. You don't need the big bottles. They sell the smaller ones. And treat all your gas. That way all of it's good. We've tried Stable. We've tried a lot of the other ones. And they weren't exactly what they said they would be. Or it didn't see it on our end, of helping us and keeping that fuel fresh and that engine from having a lot of maintenance. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. If you found anything within the video or videos, if you could like and subscribe, that would be super. I'm not asking you. I know some of you do not subscribe to anything. That's fine. Keep coming and being part of my channel. But if you are getting something and you don't mind liking and subscribing, I'm not going to beg for it, but it helps us out immensely as well. So on that note, you guys have a great Monday, and I'll be here bright and early tomorrow morning for another weekday thing. As you can see, I'm still having problems with wind. And the other thing I've noticed is, trying to remember how to do stuff and get it from here to here and to you guys. So bear with me, and we'll get through this together. Again, thanks so much for watching.